7 o'clock right now. Services honoring the life and legacy of President Jimmy Carter continue today. We'll share the details ahead.
And more cold temperatures are in the forecast today. The full forecast coming up.
Then later we got local news. The Dane County Farmers Market begins its winter season. What do you need to know this morning? Good Sunday morning. Thanks for joining us again on Weekend Mornings. I'm Kyle Pazorski. It is Sunday, the 5th. Well, we start with the first warm forecast. Jacob Montesano joins us with what you need to know. Good morning, Jacob.
Good morning, Kyle. And temperatures are very, very similar to this time yesterday. And throughout the day, they're going to be kind of a rinse and repeat of what we saw yesterday. But we are going to see a little bit more clouds today. 8 degrees is the current temperature in Madison. Wind chill is at 0. And looking at the temperatures across our region, there are a few locations in far southern Wisconsin up to about 10 degrees with areas further north, specifically you folks tuning in from Eau Claire, -1 right now. Looking at the wind chills, mostly below 0, especially in central Wisconsin where negative teens are the wind chills currently. Still below 0 though for most of far southern Wisconsin. Now as we take a look at the wind chill forecast throughout the day, it is going to rise just slightly above 0 before dropping back below 0 again for Monday morning, but it looks like it won't be quite as bad, especially for areas north that are in the negative teens right now. So looking at the actual forecast, temperatures will rise into the teens, partly to mostly cloudy skies, a little bit more sunshine as you head further north. So you folks in La Crosse will see a little bit more sunshine than far southern Wisconsin, but temperatures pretty similar. Highs will be in the teens. Now we're still going to be cold going forward, but not quite this cold. I'll talk more in detail about the forecast for the upcoming work week a little bit later.
All right, Jacob, thank you. Let's take a live look now inside the Carter Center in Atlanta. Today begins the second day of events honoring the life and legacy of former President Jimmy Carter. On Saturday, Carter's hearse passed a number of historic sites, including the farm he was raised on and the modest house he shared with his wife, former First Lady Rosalind Carter. Carter died a week ago at the age of 100, making him the longest-lived president in U.S. history. CBS News correspondent Christian Benvenides is at the Carter Center with the latest.
The public can pay respects around the clock while former President Carter lies in repose at the Carter Presidential Center in Atlanta until Tuesday. On Saturday, Marines carried his casket as family, friends, and dignitaries filled the Carter Center to reflect on his storied life.
We will spend this week celebrating this incredible life, and a life that I think we can all agree is as full and powerful as any life can be.
After his single term in the White House ended in 1981, Carter's achievements included building houses for Habitat for Humanity and winning the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002. 6 days of tributes began at the hospital in Americus, Georgia. Current and former Secret Service agents carried Carter's casket to the hearse. The procession traveled through Carter's rural hometown of Plains, Georgia, where people lined the route to catch a glimpse.
He made a lasting impact that we will never forget, and I feel it's important that we honor him just by, bidding our final farewells to a very genuine and wonderful man.
The motorcade made a brief stop at the Boyhood Farm, where the former president, known for his earlier work as a peanut farmer, grew up. Members of the National Park Service rang a bell 39 times in honor of the 39th president.
The remembrance of former President Carter will shift to the nation's capital with a state funeral planned at the Washington National Cathedral on Thursday.
He was an amazing man. And he was held up and propped up and soothed by an amazing woman. And the two of them together changed the world.
After the funeral, Carter will return to Plains. He will be buried next to his wife, Rosalind, within view of the home they built more than 60 years ago. Christian Benavides, CBS News, Atlanta.
In the 4 decades after his presidency, Carter wrote some 30 books, including memoirs, poetry, and a novel about the American Revolution, as well as works about faith and aging. Happening tomorrow, all flags in Wisconsin will be ordered to be flown at half-staff to honor former Wisconsin Senator George Patak. The order will run concurrently with the National Order for President Carter. Patak is widely known as the individual who cast the deciding vote to provide funding to build American Family Field, the home of the Milwaukee Brewers. Services will be held for Patak on Monday in Colorado. Also tomorrow, the new Wisconsin State Legislature will be sworn in, and this will include more than a quarter of all legislators. The state will see 6 new senators along with 31 assembly members sworn in at the ceremonies. This is also the first session following the redistricting of the state's legislative district maps. The Dane County Farmers Market opened up in Madison on Saturday. Reporter Ellie Liliberte shows us what makes this year so unique.
Thousands coming out to Garver Feed Mill here in Madison to get a taste of the late winter market.
We started the farm in 2021, and this is our first year at the Madison market.
Brad Thorpe owns Little Valley Farm with his wife, selling meat, honey, and wool products. He's one of 10 new vendors into the Dane County Farmers Market's late winter market, helping grow the event to 50 stalls.
We rented an extra space here in Garver, so there's more room to move around as a customer, and there's more diversity of products because we can fit those 10 extra vendors every week.
There's, a waiting list, and we're actually on the waiting list, and they called us and to let us know, hey, there's a spot open, can you be there?
Brad says if it wasn't for the extra space, he wouldn't be here.
We're grateful for anything we get because obviously this is normally a very slow time for us. So any revenue we can get now is great.
And for vendors who've been a part of the market for years, like Mel Dickinson, it's the more the merrier.
I'm hoping that the second room does great just for everybody to allow more businesses in and just to have everybody have that extra opportunity.
Market attendees are noticing.
Really fun, and always glad to see everyone come out and the community to support such a great event.
The people know what they want. They know they want good quality meats. They want good quality produce and what they want. And that's really nice. It's been great. Yeah.
The market runs from 8 a.m. until noon until April 5th. Reporting in Madison, Ellie Liliberte, News 3 Now.
Now to more local news. Tomorrow, many Culver's restaurants will be donating a percentage of their sales to the Abundant Life Christian School Emergency and Recovery Fund. It is all in an effort to aid the children, families, and educators affected by the recent tragic shooting. The company says Make Your Meal Matter signs will be prominently displayed in every participating restaurant so guests can know their purchase will support the ALCS fund. Staying local, an incident caused a police investigation to occur at the 1200 block of Broadway Street and Copps Ave in Monona on Saturday. Monona police received a call just before 2 p.m. responding to an apartment complex. They say an officer saw a person sitting outside with a handgun pointing to his head at a BP gas station on Broadway. An ambulance was requested and trained officers continued to dialogue with the person. They were later taken into custody. It is believed that the subject is also a suspect involved in a domestic disturbance which took place nearby. In New Orleans, the city is trying to heal as there are many more questions about security ahead of the security that was part of the attack that killed 14 people and injured dozens more. The French Quarter is reopened with tightened security, while in Texas on Friday, the FBI searched the home of the attacker, with sources telling CBS News that they found bomb-making chemicals and equipment inside. The FBI now believes the suspect acted alone. They say the 42-year-old Army veteran was inspired by ISIS. The New Orleans City Council has announced an investigation into what went wrong with their security measures. All his questions continued about why a protection system designed to stop vehicles from entering Bourbon Street was down.
Actually, we have them. I didn't know about them, but we have them. And so we have been able now to put them out.
On Friday, a law firm representing one of the victims said it will sue the city of New Orleans and the New Orleans Police Department over the attack, saying they failed to implement basic security precautions. President Biden will head to New Orleans on Monday to attend a vigil. Let's take a live look now at the White House. Today, or rather yesterday, President Biden awarded 19 people with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The honorees included former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, Democratic donor George Soros, celebrity chef Jose Andres, U2 frontman Bono, and actors Michael J. Fox and Denzel Washington. The president also posthumously honored former Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy and former Michigan Republican Governor George Romney, who is the father of former Senator Mitt Romney. Time now is 7:10. Still ahead, John Deere is recalling thousands of riding mowers Plus, a controversial toll is beginning in New York City today. But first, Jacob is back with the first warm forecast as we wake up with another live look at the state capitol. This is Weekend Mornings. Welcome back. Taking a live look now at Kansas City. It is pretty much the start of where the massive winter storm is impacting millions of people with whiteout conditions across the country. The NFL's Chiefs also encountered the bad weather, delaying their flight to Denver, but apparently they did make it. Jacob, we're not going to be having any kind of weather like this, are we, anytime soon?
No, and honestly, we should be donating some of the snow trucks down there because there are some areas that are getting the amount of snowfall that they normally get over the entire season with this one storm.
I mean, that's a pretty crazy shot.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be major impacts down there, but here we're going to be staying mostly dry. In fact, there's not much changing in the forecast. We'll see very cold temperatures today, with temperatures still cold, but not quite as bad a little bit later in the week. So here's a look at today's forecast. Highs in the teens, partly to mostly cloudy skies. That's really going to be the only difference compared to yesterday, where we saw sunshine yesterday. We're not going to see quite as much today. Still could see a few peaks. Later tonight, the temperatures aren't going to drop too much. We'll have lows in the teens, which is better compared to the lows that we're seeing this morning in the single digits. Wind chill values may still be below zero, but if they are below zero, they'll be just barely below that level. And then we'll see sunshine for Monday afternoon. Highs will be in the 20s, so a little bit milder, but again, still cold, very January-like weather. And looking at the high temperature trend going forward, we're going to consistently see highs in the 20s, especially by the time we get to the end of this week and beginning of next week. The average high for this time of year, upper 20s, so we'll be pretty close to that. So again, very January-like going forward. Now here's a look at that system. It is going to stay to the south of our area, but we could see some lake effect snow impact Milwaukee, Chicago, and also the southeastern portion of Wisconsin as a whole. So areas far to the east and far to the southeast of Madison could see some snow, but we're still not expecting any accumulation, and much of our area will be dry. This may continue into Monday, but by Monday evening, we're going to be completely dry, and then we're not really going to see much in the form of snowfall going forward. So here's a look at the snow chances specifically. Again, that little increase for Sunday night and Monday will be for those possible flurries east of Madison, but for the most part, fairly dry. Could see some snow on Friday, but even that is looking pretty light. So looking at the full 7 to 10 day forecast for La Crosse, on and off cloud cover with high temperatures in the teens to 20s through the work week, with mostly 20s by the weekend and early next week. Overnight lows will be in the single digits to teens as well. So again, it's going to be a very, very quiet forecast. Not much is changing, and it's going to be very, very close to normal for this time of the year after today, really, as we'll see those high temperatures in the 20s. So looking at Madison, not much changing either compared to La Crosse. It's going to be very, very dry. Now, this is the time of the season where we can afford it to be dry. It's not, detrimental that we don't see snowfall. In fact, for those of you that enjoy ice fishing, it actually helps create thicker ice, the lack of snowfall. So the ice fishing season may be pretty good considering the temperatures are going to be below freezing. But overall, very, very small chances of snowfall with temperatures consistently staying cold, but again, not quite as cold as they will be today going forward.
All right, Jacob, thank you. Thousands of John Deere riding mowers are being recalled. Kawasaki Motors USA is recalling nearly 40,000 of the Z-Track zero-turn mowers with Kawasaki engines. The mowers were sold in the U.S. and Canada between October of 2018 and September of 2024. This recall is due to a potential fire and burn hazard. No injuries have been reported so far. Owners should stop using the mowers immediately, not that we're doing any mowing right now, and contact a John Deere dealership. Repairs to the impacted mowers will be free of charge. Well, Microsoft is expected to spend some big money on artificial intelligence this year. For fiscal year 2025, the company said it is on track to invest approximately $80 billion to build out data centers. They will be used to train AI models and deploy AI and cloud-based applications worldwide. In a blog post this week, Microsoft said more than half of that $80 billion investment will be made in the United States. The company said the U.S. leads the global AI race right now, and it called on the incoming Trump administration and Congress to expand efforts to support the advancement of AI. Well, tech giant Meta is scrambling to delete several of its own AI-generated accounts. Last week, Meta's vice president of generative AI told the Financial Times that the company expects its homemade AI users to appear on its platforms in much the same way human accounts do. Multiple AI-generated accounts have since popped up on the site, portraying themselves as people of differing backgrounds that users could chat with. So this raised concerns that AI-generated content would disrupt a main function of social media, which is fostering human-to-human connections. Well, starting today, New York City is implementing a first-in-the-nation plan aimed to reduce traffic and pay the transit, to reduce traffic and pay for some transit improvements. CBS's Allie Ballman is in New York with the controversial measure.
For such a fast-paced city, getting around New York can feel surprisingly slow.
Ambulances can't get to hospitals. Police cars can't get to crimes in progress.
Jana Lieber is chair of the agency which runs New York's subways and soon its congestion pricing. Starting Sunday, most drivers will be charged $9 to enter Manhattan's central business district.
We live here. We shouldn't have to pay extra to move around.
I think no one should be driving in Manhattan unless they absolutely have to.
The state aims to raise $15 billion earmarked for mass transit upgrades.
And so this money is on top of the money that the MTA gets from tolls and taxes. So how do you guarantee to people that this funding is going to be going towards those projects that people have been waiting years for?
But listen, New Yorkers are recognizing that we are getting a ton of work done. We've opened 2 new train stations just in the last couple of years.
New York's plan is based on London's congestion charge. But 20 years after being implemented there, London ranks as the 3rd most congested city in the world by traffic analysis company INRIX. Lieber maintains the statistic doesn't tell the whole story.
The proof is for London is they have a lot less cars coming to the middle of their downtown clogging the streets, but they have more people coming.
New York's plan has survived several legal challenges, with some opponents still hopeful that President-elect Donald Trump will find a way to kill the toll once he is in office. A look around the world now. Chile's President Gabriel Boric, well, he traveled to the South Pole on Friday, making history in this process. So, according to the Chilean government, Boric became the first Latin American president to set foot on the planet's southernmost point. A Chilean public broadcaster reported that Boric traveled with scientists, armed force commanders, as well as other Chilean government officials. Boric shared these images that you're seeing of his journey on social media. Chile is one of 7 countries that does have a territorial claim in Antarctica, and it is also a signatory to the Antarctic Treaty, which states the continent may only be used for peaceful and scientific purposes. Boric called his 2-day trip an honor. Palestinians inspected damage caused to a neighborhood in Gaza at a refugee camp this past week, following an Israeli strike which killed several people. On Saturday, several people gathered at a Gaza hospital around the bodies of those killed by Israeli strikes in different areas. Israel has killed more than 45,000 Palestinians in the war. That's according to Gaza's health ministry. Most of Gaza's 2.3 million people have been displaced, and much of the tiny, heavily built-up coastal territory is now in ruins. Still ahead here on Weekend Morning, stick around. We take you to Minnesota and a look at how people there are spending the cold days by making ice sculptures. We're back in a moment.
Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, or in this case, a meteorologist, to tell you that there is no snow on the ground here in southern Wisconsin. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because this actually will impact how thick the ice will get on the lake. So here's a look at the current ice thickness. Now, this isn't updated daily, and it is important to point out that no ice is 100% safe, but specifically Lake Monona is at 5 inches of ice thickness, according to Lake Link. Now, the reason I showed you the lack of snow is to remind you, obviously there's no snow out there, but when you have snow on the ground, it kind of can act as like a blanket over the ice, which kind of prevents it from growing very thick. Now, in this case, the ice is expected to possibly grow thicker because there's no snow on the ground, and also there's not going to be any additional snow going forward, and temperatures will be below freezing. So the ice is expected to get very thick over the next couple of weeks. But again, it is important to still stay safe out there. But this is some pretty good news for all you ice fishers out there.
Yeah, very interesting. Good stuff. Thank you, Jacob. Well, with a string of colder days, ice sculptures around Minnesota are finally catching a break. Jason Rontala shows us how they're making the most of it.
It's finally starting to look a little like winter here in Delano. That's thanks, in part, not only to these snow machines, but also our dramatic drop in temperatures.
We're just trying to fix the ice palace and get everything recovered.
Dylan Hinson with the Ice Palace says temperatures of 40 and above combined with rain made for a devastating ice-killing combination.
We had a couple walls collapse.
The warm weather comes after last year's frustrating season when the palace was open for a grand total of 4 days. Ice makers say 25 degrees and below is good for making ice. That's where we're at Thursday afternoon here in Delano. 10 degrees and below, well, that's even better.
When we get into those single digits, we get immense growth.
And lucky for people like Dylan, we should get to those single digits and even colder over the next week. In time for opening day next Saturday, January 11th.
And it's just going to get bigger and bigger even after we open.
If you can't wait until next week, Ice Castles at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds opens this Friday night, featuring ice castles, tunnels, and caverns. Organizers say they, too, are looking to make up for last year's lack of winter.
I know winter can be kind of depressing for people, and, that's why we're here. We're just excited to share something happy and magical for people.
It's 7:30 right now. A Wisconsin staple is looking to help out the people impacted by the Abundant Life School shooting. How you can show your support. Plus, Americans begin to say goodbye to President Carter. What's happening next ahead of his state funeral? This is Weekend Mornings, and once again, we thank you for joining us here. I'm Kyle Pazorski. It is Sunday, January the 5th. Actor Bradley Cooper turns 50 today. Let's start with a look at the first warm forecast. Jacob Montesano has that, and he joins us now. Good morning, Jacob.
Good morning, Kyle. If we take a look outside, this is a live camera from Dodgeville. It shows a lot more cloud cover compared to yesterday. We actually talked about yesterday. The sunrise felt very strong yesterday, if that makes any sense, but not really seeing much of that across our area. Now, despite that, the temperatures, they're pretty similar. Single digits for much of the area, below 0 further north. Actually still around 10 for far southern Wisconsin. So there are a few locations a few degrees warmer, but for the most part, I mean, the temperature change is pretty much non-existent. The entire region at most 3 degrees warmer or colder than this time yesterday. Now, as we take a look at the current wind speeds, these are calmer, so the wind chill's not quite as bad, although they are still below 0 at this hour. Could remain below 0 throughout the morning. We are completely dry despite the cloud cover, but that's not the case across the entire United States. A fairly massive winter storm is impacting most of the U.S., at least the central United States south of us. I'll talk more about this a little bit later, but first, here's a look at today's forecast. Partly cloudy to mostly cloudy skies today. The further north you're located, the more sunshine you will see with more clouds further south. But again, I'll talk more about that system and our forecast coming up a little bit later.
All right, Jacob, thank you. Some top stories we are following. First, the details on an officer-involved shooting in Columbia County. It happened yesterday on the I-39 interstate. Sheriff's office says the armed and suicidal man was traveling westbound on I-90-94 a little before 6 p.m. This is when a deputy attempted to stop the man before a pursuit took place. He continued northbound onto I-39, heading towards Portage before hitting a tire spike device. After coming to a stop, the man fired at several deputies. 3 of the deputies did return fire of their own, but no one was hit in this exchange. The man was arrested after a negotiation and is now facing several charges in connection to the incident. Many Culver's restaurants will be donating a percentage of their sales to the Abundant Life Christian School Emergency and Recovery Fund. It is all in an effort to aid the children, family, and educators affected by the recent tragedy. The company says Make Your Meal Matter signs will be prominently displayed in every participating restaurant so guests can know if their purchase will support the ALCS fund. To the White House, where President Biden awarded 19 people with the Presidential Medal of Freedom on Saturday. Some of the honorees include politicians, entertainers, and others who have contributed to American society.
For the final time as president, I have the honor of bestowing the Medal of Freedom on our nation's highest civilian honor on a group of extraordinary, truly extraordinary people who gave their sacred effort to shape the culture and the cause of America.
Now, some of the honorees included former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, Democratic donor George Soros, U2 frontman Bono, and actors Michael J. Fox and Denzel Washington. The president also posthumously honored former Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy and former Michigan Republican Governor George Romney, the father of former Senator Mitt Romney. People in the U.S. began to say goodbye to its 39th president, Jimmy Carter, in Georgia on Saturday. A motorcade with a hearse carrying the former president's remains traveled from Carter's home in Plains all the way to his boyhood home in the same city and then to the Georgia State Capitol, all before arriving at the Carter Center in Atlanta. A brief service took place at the Carter Presidential Library and Museum. Carter's body will lie in repose at the Carter Center until Tuesday morning. His body will then be flown to Washington, D.C. The former president will then lie in state at the U.S. Capitol ahead of his state funeral at Washington National Cathedral on Thursday. Happening now, a massive winter storm is bringing heavy snow, ice, and bitterly cold temperatures to large parts of the country. 50 million people in 25 states are all in this storm's path. CBS's Ian Lee is in Kansas City, where crews there say they're ready.
For city manager Brian Platt, battling the snowstorm starts 48 hours before the first flurry.
That we've been pre-treating our roads
for 2 days before the storm means that we really shouldn't get to a moment where the roads are impassable.
His 300 plows will clear roughly 6,400 lane miles, or equivalent to driving between New York and Los Angeles more than twice.
Every single plow has a tablet with a GPS mapping system.
Inside Snow Command, a team monitors their progress.
You can also see who's driving, how fast they're driving, kind of where they are in their route and things of that nature.
While the technology keeps the trucks on track, the star is the salt
this
itself.
Is our secret weapon. This is a product called Ice Bane. It's magnesium chloride.
How does this salt work on the roads?
It actually will bind to the snow particles and melt them. That liquid is then much easier to remove from the street.
He calls it a secret weapon.
You sound pretty confident.
We've never been more prepared as a city. We are absolutely ready for this, no matter what's coming.
That's CBS's Ian Lee reporting. Well, next this morning, we got new details from the Sauk County Sheriff's Office regarding a shelter-in-place warning that was sent to Baraboo residents early Saturday morning. Now, according to the press release, the county's communications center had received a stolen truck report late Friday night. The truck was located and stopped. The driver and passenger did then attempt to run away, but the passenger was arrested. The alleged driver then left, beginning a search. The county's emergency management unit set out the automated alert to all cell phone users that were in the search area. This was requesting them to have people lock their doors and find shelter. The alert was then lifted soon after. Happening tomorrow, all flags in Wisconsin are ordered to be flown at half-staff to honor former Wisconsin Senator George Patak. The order will run concurrently with the National Order for President Carter. Patak is widely known as the individual who cast the deciding vote to provide funding to build American Family Field, the home of the Milwaukee Brewers. Services will be held for Patak on Monday in Colorado. Time now 7:37 here on your Sunday morning. Still ahead, we got another quick check of your Sunday forecast. We'll be back in a bit.
Well, as we take a look at the current radar, still seeing that massive winter storm to the south of our area. Now, it will stay completely to the south of Wisconsin with the exception of some lake effect snow, but it is going to cause a lot of travel impact. So it's going to track almost due east across the Ohio Valley, bringing some ice possibly to portions of Kentucky, and it will fizzle out a little bit as we get towards Monday morning as it gets into the mid-Atlantic, but still expected to bring some snowfall out there. And then by the time we get to Monday evening, especially Tuesday morning, most of the system will have cleared out of the United States. But total snowfall could be over a foot for some locations. In some of these areas, this is about the amount of snowfall they get over the entire season. So definitely a major winter storm for those folks. Meanwhile, here in Madison, we're going to be very quiet. Looking at the winter storm severity index, it is going to impact portions of the mid-Atlantic, like I mentioned, not quite as bad as just moderate impacts are expected there. This includes the nation's capital, but further northeast towards New York and Boston, it won't make its way up there. So mostly to the south of us and then to the southeast of us towards the mid-Atlantic.
Thank you, Jacob. Well, a new nasal swab test could diagnose a specific asthma subtype in kids. Researchers at the University of Pittsburgh say the non-invasive test could help doctors better prescribe medications. It may also lead to more research for better treatments in lesser studied types of asthma, which is the most common chronic childhood disease and disproportionately affects Black and Hispanic youth. Well, looking around the world now, a nun from Brazil has become the world's oldest person at the age of 116 years. Ina Kanabaro Lucas took the title following the death of Japan's Tomiko Itaka in December of this past year. This is according to a tracking website that looks at these types of things. Sister Kanabaro was born on June 8th of 1908. Ina was honored on her 110th birthday in 2018. That's when Pope Francis blessed her with an apostolic blessing. On February 16th of this past year, the same website that does all this tracking had recognized her as Brazil's oldest living person and the oldest living nun in the world. Well, coming up now on 7:45 here on your Sunday morning, still ahead here on Weekend Mornings, we take a look at what's happening in the world of Wisconsin sports. Plus, Jacob will be back with the full first warn forecast. This is Weekend Mornings.
Good morning, everybody. Here's a look at the 3 things you need to know. It's going to be very cold again today, with temperatures remaining cold going forward, but not quite as bad towards the end of this week. And we are going to continue to see little to no snowfall. Here's a look at today's forecast. Highs will be in the teens. Partly to mostly cloudy skies. The further north you're located, the more sunshine you will see, with pretty much complete cloud cover by the afternoon for far southern Wisconsin. Winds should be pretty light, but the wind chills are still going to be pretty cold because the actual temperatures will be cold. They're going to be just above 0 for the afternoon hours before dropping back below 0 for Monday morning, but then they'll be in the teens as we head into Monday afternoon. And then Tuesday morning, the wind chills actually are expected to stay above 0, so it'll be a little bit of improvement, but they could drop back below once again for Wednesday morning. Now, looking at the actual temperatures going forward, highs are expected to be in the 20s for the end of this week and beginning of next week, and the average high for this time of year is in the upper 20s, so we're not going to be too far off from it. Here's a look at the cloud cover and snowfall forecast, and I love to say snowfall forecast. It's going to be very little of it. You can see those flurries and lake effect snow coming off of Lake Michigan, but shouldn't impact our area except for maybe some locations far east and far southeast of Madison. Beyond that, though, there really is no snowfall or any kind of precipitation in the forecast, at least for the near future. We'll see some sunshine for Monday, but then we're going to see more clouds roll in for Tuesday, and for the most part, we're just going to see on and off cloud cover for the middle and end of this week. So here's an actual look at the snow chances. That little bit of an increase for tonight and tomorrow will be for that possible snow far east and far southeast of Madison, but much of us will be dry. And then we're definitely going to be dry through the middle of the week, maybe some light snow on Friday, but that'll be just about it. So here's a full look at the 7 to 10 day forecast. Not much is going to change. We're going to see very January-like temperatures as it will be cold. Not too cold by the weekend, pretty close to normal for this time of the year. Highs in the 20s, lows in the teens by then. With, again, some days will be cloudy, some days will be partly sunny. Just going to kind of fluctuate between that. So not much different for Madison's forecast. Could see some light snow on Friday, maybe some light snow over the weekend into next week. But for the most part, this forecast is going to stick around. Now, it's not going to be quite as cold for the rest of this week as it will be today. But beyond that, below freezing going forward, overnight lows and morning wind chills could be in the single digits to below 0 at times. So, I mean, it's just going to feel like January, even though it won't look like January.
On to some sports news now. In the final week of this regular season for the NFL, the Packers will take on the Chicago Bears in a rivalry that seems as old as time. Green Bay is coming in with an 11-5 record. That's pretty good, while the opposite is true for the Bears. They have only been able to get 4 wins so far this entire season. The game begins around noon at Lambeau Field and will be broadcast on Fox. Next to Milwaukee, where the Bucks took on the Trailblazers Saturday night, and it was a tough battle through 4 quarters, all coming down to just 1 point, with Portland leading with just 23.5 seconds to go. The Trailblazers would keep the lead, getting 2 free throws, putting the game away with 105-102. The Bucks next head to Toronto on Monday to face the Raptors. And staying in the NBA, Lakers star LeBron James has broken a record set by another NBA legend, surpassing Michael Jordan's mark for the most 30-point games in NBA history. James recorded his 563rd 30-point game during Friday's matchup between the Lakers and Atlanta Hawks. And as a result, he surpassed Jordan's record, which he set back in 2003 when he played for the Bulls. Well, Wisconsin women's hockey traveled to Wrigley Field on Saturday afternoon to take part of the Frozen Confines series at Wrigley. That's quite a unique event. Sports anchor Zach Hanley made the trip to Chicago and has more with the Badgers.
Surreal, super cool, once in a lifetime. It's hockey at Wrigley Field, and this game is something the Badgers have been looking forward to since it was released. Now, Wisconsin skating outdoors for the first time since 2010, taking on Ohio State in a national championship rematch. The Badgers put up 6 on the Buckeyes on Thursday. This one tied at 1 in the first period. Kirsten Sims takes the puck and slides it through to light the lamp, and Wisconsin has a 2-1 lead after one. Third period now, Badgers down 3-2. Laney Potter sends one at the net, and Kelly Gorbatenko deflects it in to tie this one up. A huge moment for the Illinois native. This one, though, would head to overtime and end in a tie, with Ohio State picking up a point in the shootout.
Yeah, I don't think the score is going to be the big takeaway from this. I think just like pre-game, getting to like walk around, see everything, and like just the fun it was to like pick our outfits and everything. Like it was such a cool opportunity for our team. And I think like regardless of how the game was going to go, we were going to come out with a smile, and just we're really honored to be provided this opportunity. It was so special, and I think everyone's probably going to remember this for the rest of their lives.
I told the team this morning, I said, this may not happen again. We may never see a women's game at Wrigley again. And so if you happen to be in, the action day, whether you're on the Ohio State side or our side, I mean, it's a good day.
On the men's side, the Badgers have never lost an outdoor hockey game. Wisconsin facing off against Michigan State. Badgers down 2-0 in the second, but battling back. Gavin Morrissey puts the biscuit in the basket to cut the lead in half. And this one's currently tied at 2 in the second period. This was extra special for players like Owen Lindmark and Kelly Gorbatenko. Both grew up going to Cubs games as a kid. Kelly calling it a full circle moment, while Owen said he'll remember this for the rest of his life. At Wrigley Field, Zach Hanley, News 3 Sports.
Thank you, Zach, for going there. And still to come, the Golden Globes, well, they take place today. What to watch for in tonight's show is coming up next on Weekend Mornings. Well, finally this morning, the stage is set for Hollywood's Party of the Year, the Golden Globes. No Holds Barred comedian, actress, and Golden Globe nominee herself, Nikki Glaser. Well, she's the first woman to solo host the show. The champagne-heavy ceremony is the largest honoring the best in television and film. And some things to watch out for include Netflix's crime musical, Emilia Perez. It is leading the pack amongst films with 10 nominations, while on the TV side, The Bear has the most nominations with 5. And you can catch the show tonight at 7 o'clock Central on CBS. Jacob, are you going to be watching?
Maybe. Now, the thing with award shows is that, I'm always very interested to see who wins and all that stuff. But I also feel like with every award show, I always find myself annoyed with how it's being run. I think award shows need to show more, clips from movies and shows rather than, tell all these jokes. Like the opening monologue should
comedy,
be the
less
only
comedy and more honoring the shows.
Yeah, I feel like every single introduction to award is like some silly comedic bit that half the time is not funny. The opening monologue's usually good.
No one in the crowd ever laughs.
The opening monologue's usually good, and that should stay. But beyond that, I feel like they should show more clips, especially of the actors acting. But beyond that, this award show specifically, there's actually some movies I've seen. I feel like a lot of times, or I feel like recently it's kind of changed with Oppenheimer and Barbie, like last year or 2 years ago, but this year I've actually seen a few of them.
All right, thank you all for watching. Have a great Sunday, folks.